We did receive feedback from all these jurisdictions that were going to be affected, that included San Juan Bautista and City of Hollister. So Assembly Bill 626 laid out the foundation for this program. It did have various restrictions to accommodate a home-based food facility. One of them covered the gross annual sales that they were allowed to sell, which was capped at 50K. It also only allowed 30 meals or meal components per day and no more than 60 meals per week. As of March 2024, we had 6 permitted MICOs and 2 pending permits. Recently, I was informed that one of the MICOs has been dissolved, so that leaves us with 5. Staff time was accounted for at 110 for fully burdened hourly rates. And here I have listed so many hours that staff has spent either in the permitting process, answering any questions or concerns from interested parties, and then just overall administration. We do have a total revenue collected for MICOs at roughly 300 or 3,000. An updated bill was passed in July of 2023. This new bill raised the limit of individual meals a MICO can prepare and sell from 60 per week to 90 meals per week. It also raised the annual gross sales from 50,000 to 100,000 annually gross. And it also clarified the definition of a meal for MICOs. A meal is the amount of food a customer consumes in one sitting, including a main dish, appetizers, side dishes, beverages, baked goods, and desserts. The bill declared that it would take effect immediately as a merchant statute. For today, the staff recommendation is this is a pilot program that was incorporated into the county code of ordinances. It was approved for a 2-year pilot program. We're a little bit over a year and a half. What I'm looking for today is board direction on whether we would like to extend this program indefinitely or let the program dissolve after the 2-year mark, which will be in September of this year. With that, I'd like to pass it back to the board for discussion.
Okay, let's open it up to public comment.
If you'd like to make a comment in chambers, please provide a speaker card. On Zoom, please press *9 or the raised hand icon. And on Zoom, Lauren, you've been unmuted and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, Board of Supervisors. My name is Lauren Wolfer, and I am speaking today in favor of item 2.2 in my role as Outreach and Advocacy Director for Cook Alliance, a nonprofit committed to legitimizing the sale of home-cooked food. Our organization has actively supported permitted MICO chefs across the state, the majority of whom are from underserved communities, with education and resources, and we have seen the success of MICOs firsthand. We've also worked with counties and public health on implementation of MICO programs throughout the state, and we've collected data and tracked the progress of this program as well. So we want to thank you all for giving MICOs a chance and implementing this pilot program in San Benito County. By implementing a MICO program, you have not only enhanced public safety, enhanced food safety, but you've also made education and resources available to the home cooks that were already operating informally in the shadows. And you've also provided the community with access to one of the most affordable pathways to culinary entrepreneurship that particularly benefits women, working families, immigrants, and people of color. I also want to thank the Department of Environmental Health for their excellent work in putting together this permitting process. We urge you to continue empowering the home cooking community by extending this program indefinitely. The County of San Diego voted last fall to make their program permanent after a successful 2-year pilot without any major risk factor violations observed, no reports of foodborne illness, and no reports of community impact complaints. And one of the very first permitted MICOs in San Diego County is now in the process of opening a brick-and-mortar restaurant. Our organization hopes to work with your health department and local nonprofits to provide education, outreach, resources, and support with the goal of helping to build new local businesses and cultivating the community. We are also in the process of dispersing 1.5 million in state-funded equity grants through our education program, Cook Academy. Cook Academy is an 8-week online course that teaches essential business skills and provides a $3,000 grant upon completion to empower home cooks in establishing their own Miko business. Residents of San Benito County will be eligible for these grants if the county moves forward with extending the existing Miko program. I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. We look forward to working with you to promote a culinary industry that is inclusive and supportive of economic growth for all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
I have no further public comment.
Okay, bringing it back to the board. Any comments? Supervisor Gonzalez.
Thank you for that public comment. So to you, Gracie, have we had any complaints or any concerns? As in the speaker had mentioned, I was kind of wondering if we had any of those, because I know when we first were talking about this, 2 years ago, I know that there was some opposition from the community regarding kitchens not really monitored, inspected, and so forth. So that hasn't proved to be an issue for us.
To my knowledge, I'm not aware, but I do have somebody from environmental health online.
Good. Okay. Can we ask them then?
Hi, this is Olga with Environmental Health.
Hello.
Hi, Olga. We just have some questions. Supervisor Gonzalez is going to ask.
Okay.
Hi, I was just wondering if we had any reported concerns about the Miko kitchens that have been operating the last 2 years in terms of foodborne illnesses or anything like that.
No concerns, just people calling to verify that they're permitted. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, that's really good to hear because I know that was one of the main concerns was the status of the kitchen and no one really, inspecting it, if there wasn't really any procedures that were in place to protect the community. But if it's a non-issue, then it's a non-issue. And so today, are you looking at us to possibly to extend it, to make it permanent? What are our choices here?
So today I would like feedback on either extending the program indefinitely or extending it for a certain amount. However, I will also like direction to amend the ordinance to incorporate any of the bills that have passed subsequently and to make any necessary changes to fully capture everything that has occurred.
Supervisor Sotelo.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Probably they'll be directed. I'm guessing Olga will be the one to be able to answer. But what entails the permitting process? So I want to do this. What do I need to do? Part of this question is going to be, it appears that the average is 29 hours per application permit. And so that seems like a lot to me. So I'm just curious what kind of the process is.
I will let Olga answer that.
I think that 29 was an average of the time that we spend, but typically what we find is I'll turn in the application and it's a 2-hour review period is what we're finding to review the application and do the site inspection. Unless we have to go back and do a re-inspection and we go past the 2 hours, then we let them know that we will be charging for addition of our time. But that hasn't been the case so far.
So how much does the permit cost?
So we do the 2 hours is to process the application, and then the annual permit is $397.
Okay. Is there any other revenue that we receive from the Mikos? Is that what we call it? The Mikos?
Yeah, no. Because it's not in our...
I asked that only because in the presentation, I want to say it was listed that so there's 6 permitted, and this is existing, so I don't know what it has been in the past, but, and 6 permitted, 2 pending, and the total revenue collected is just under $3,700.
It's $397 for the annual permit, and about $220 that we've been charging for the review fee. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's $397 annually, and then if they need additional time on their application, it's an additional $220.
No, it's 220 to get the application going, and that covers our time to review the application and do the initial inspection, and then going forward, it's 397 for the permit fee.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And thank you, Supervisor Gonzalez, asking about the complaints. I had that same question. And so, no complaints of people getting sick or anything like that, but have there been any complaints from neighbors of, people picking up meals or anything of that sort?
Those typically wouldn't come to environmental health. It would be more of a code enforcement, because we wouldn't, it's not covered under environmental health. We just cover the food facility, the MECO, as far as the kitchen. We would
Okay.
refer most
Do we
complaints
know
to code.
if there's been any complaints to code enforcement?
Not that I'm aware of. I can
Okay.
definitely reach out to the respective jurisdictions.
Okay, perfect. So if I was going to get a MECO, do I go to the city first and get my business license?
We do encourage that everyone who is operating a business get their business license in compliance with any jurisdiction, county code or city code.
Well, I guess I'm asking specifically regarding the city because I think sometimes it's a little confusing, right? Because you're going to go to the city, and I'm just wondering, is the city telling people that, okay, you've received this business license, now to be in compliance, you need to go to county environmental health and now get your MECO license or whatever the license is called?
I can answer that question. The city won't issue them a license without getting a permit, so they'll come to us first, and then they'll take our permit to the city and get their business license.
Okay.
I don't know about the county, but that's how the city's been working that, because most of our MECOs are all in the city.
Yeah,
I think
okay,
that's really
perfect. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we were working together and we were collaborating. Is there any place that a consumer could go to find the list of who is licensed with this permit? Like, how do we know that somebody I see people selling stuff I actually have bought from different MECO kitchens and have had amazing bread and meals and all sorts of different things. But how do I know that who I'm buying from has this permit?
They should only be advertising on websites that are approved by CDPH, and it has to be specifically say it's a micro home enterprise kitchen. They have the permit number and all these requirements per CalCode.
Okay, so is there a site that I could go to? Like if does environmental health have a list or on the county's website that I could go see that, I don't know, the Baylor Kitchen, whatever, has a micro enterprise home kitchen permit?
Not at this time.
Is that something that maybe would be valuable for us to have? One, I think it helps, it encourages people to go the right direction. It's reasonable, but it's not, for some people, $220 review and then a $397 annual might be a lot. And so it just seems like having it so that it's published somewhere might be beneficial for us to really make sure that we're capturing all of the home kitchens. I'm incredibly supportive, and I think that this creates a lot of opportunities. I think for a lot of people, it's prohibitive to have a storefront with a commercial kitchen and all of that. It's just so expensive. So for me, this creates a lot of opportunity. So I love to support this. I just want to make sure that, it's not like there's this expectation that some people go through this permit process, but then there's 25 others that don't, and we don't really know about it. And so, I want to make sure that if we're going to have a system like this, that everybody is participating in it, or that at least the majority of people. And so while we have 6 or 5, I guess currently, and 2 pending, do you think, are we capturing everybody in San Benito County that has this micro enterprise kitchen?
No, I think there's a lot of illegal vendors out there. Not everybody has a Miko permit at this time, but we can put a list together and put it on the website if
I'm just
that's
wondering,
the
how
wish of
do
the
we
board.
encourage people to kind of go through and get the, go through with the permitting the process, and I'm all for, in favor of increasing it to the 60 meals per week with the 100,000. I think, is it? No, yeah, going the gross annual sales of 100,000. Because that's not taking into account any of the cost of food or anything like that. So at 50,000, it seems like it's hardly worth doing at a $220 review, a 397 annual permit, all the cost of food. You're not really making enough to have that be your livelihood, right? So I think that increasing it to what the new legislation is that has been passed makes perfect sense in my mind. I just want to make sure that that everybody that's doing this, that they're all participating in this program. But I think that concludes my comment. So thank you.
Supervisor Zanger?
Yeah, I just want to make a quick comment on what Supervisor Sotelo was mentioning. I think really the way to incentivize people to do this is to de-incentivize them from doing it inappropriately. I think that's really the route we have to go. I don't think we're going to get people to that are operating unpermitted. I don't think we're going to get them to go the right way if we aren't de-incentivizing that. I think we need to really crack down on that as far as getting people to go through the right channels. I don't think they're going to do it for no reason or do it for, I guess, extra publicity or something like this. I think we just need to really incorporate cracking down on inappropriate or illicit vendors and things like that. So that's just my comment on that.
I totally agree with both of your comments, and I think there's a way of adding them together on a website where you have it listed so that you can look up that they do have the permit, and then you have a reporting, because it's the public that will be the ones to notify us, having the public be the ones that reports a non-permitted, so that can then get them on the path of being permitted. Supervisor Kosmicki.
Yes, so I, along with Supervisor Gonzalez, sort of spearheaded and pushed this forward when this came. This was actually a kind of a controversy. I don't know why in hindsight, and was a big believer in this, and we got it approved. And so I'm all on board. Let's get rid of the indefinite tag on it. I guess I'm going to compare home kitchens to our prior discussion on cannabis. Let's open opportunities for people to have businesses. The restaurant business, it sounds like, I don't want to belabor things here, but the restaurant business is one of the hardest businesses to get into, and the vast majority of people don't have the money to do it. I could not start a restaurant if I wanted to, and it's a mid six figure dollar amount to start a restaurant at the least, and so this gives people a chance to make some money, to start a business and do some things for their family. I'm all about it. I also think the permit, the $397 permit, is that something that is that by statute?
So we didn't have a fee for Mikos. What we did, it was do like a cost study. So based on staff salary, how much time we put in, that's the fee we're going to be using right now as a study. However, when we update our master fee schedule, we will be implementing a fixed fee that covers staff time and all the work that gets put into.
Okay, because I just, without going out there and knocking on doors with the staff members, on the surface it seems really high. The $400 basically seems like an impediment to people that are trying to start very modest mom and pop sort of shops, and so I have to see that number come down personally. I'd like it to be more of an incentive for people to start these businesses. I also agree with Supervisor Zanger about illegal vendors and cracking down on illegal vendors and educating them more so that they, you don't have to do this illegally. You can do it legally, just please go through the legal channels. Let's make it affordable so that they see that. And so I think there's two sides to this. I would like to, at some point I know we have a lot on our plate. I see this broader sort of beautifying the community theme that illegal vending fits into that I'd like to address at some point. So I agree there. And then as far as outreach goes, I think it would be good for us to promote that we're open to this and put it on website, list the vendors that are doing it. I also, think it's an area maybe we could revisit with our, our PIO if I don't want to tell the PIO what to do. But it could be an opportunity for us to show that we're pro-business and pro-small business. And I also support increasing the cap to whatever the state allows, which sounds like it's 100,000. Thanks.
Okay, with that, my only question is, with these sales, there is a sales tax, correct?
Do not have the answer to that question, but I can definitely look into it and get back to you.
Because I just want to make sure if we're promoting this, I mean, this is a revenue source. They are selling products, like going to a restaurant. I mean, you pay tax on almost everything. So I just want to make sure that we're looking at all areas, and if it's no longer the State Board of Equalization, I'm sorry, I cannot go with their new name. The new name of the State Board of Equalization, ensuring that these businesses understand what their requirements are. That's my only comment. But totally support this. I think this is a great way of encouraging future entrepreneurs of having a startup and finding a way of doing it without having to have a brick and mortar. So I totally support this. I agree completely to max it out to the state levels, and the annual fee is a bit high, and once you answer the tax question, I think that's where the revenue is. It's not in the fee, the permit fee. Yes, we want to reimburse ourselves, but we don't also want to make it a barrier.
Madam Chair, I'm almost 100% sure prepared foods are definitely taxed.
Yeah, I just want to make sure they're paying it.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yep. It's one of those things, it's an easy way of slipping through the cracks, and I want to make sure that we're not letting those things slip through the cracks.
I will find out.
Okay, thank you so much. CAOS
Yeah,
President.
and I agree with that. I think we need to verify that, because when you look at the numbers and you do the math on it, you got 161 hours times the salary that was stated at 17,000, and the revenues are only 3,600. So you got to offset that somewhere. Obviously, the board has the ability to give us direction, and we'll do whatever the board wants to do. But with the light of unfunded mandates and all these other things, we need to keep track of that and do our best to cover our cost if we can, especially on the sales tax piece. So we'll look into that.
One last thing. I also think we should be collecting all the business license fees that we're due, because if we're cracking down on small startup vendors of food businesses, and we're allowing restaurants that make 7 figures to not pay $100-something or whatever it is, there's something wrong there. Thanks.
And just as an FYI, as a caveat, Carrot, that's something to look forward to next Tuesday. We will have that conversation with you. We have invited HDL to actually give a full presentation on that, on the business license, and an update with that.
Okay, great. Any other questions, comments? Staff, do you have enough direction?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, with that, we don't have any motion on this. This was just direction. So we're going to move on to items. Now, I want to just confirm with council, we discussed during agenda review, we're going to do public comment for item 2.3, 2.3 first, one more. I got one more. Sorry, Dulce, I skipped you. And it's such an important item. I'm sure Supervisor Sotelo would be screaming at me if I jumped over this item. So yeah, but just to confirm, the next 3 items we can do together and do one public comment all at once.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, Dulce. Strategic plan.
Hi, good morning again. So strategic plan. Oh, she missed me. Okay, so this is the revised strategic plan for that we worked on initially in December on revamping, and some of so strategic planning is about influencing the future rather than just adapting to it. The strategic plan serves as a tool to increase effectiveness by clearly underlying the county's goals, alliances, and tactics and budgets to achieve them. So this update includes an update to our mission, vision, values, and it also includes SMART goals with desirable outcomes and targeted dates, which is something new that we didn't have before. So I'm just going to scroll through it. The message from our board, I'm just going to read the second paragraph from it, but ensuring alliance between our goals, resources, and budgeting is critical to the success of our strategic plan. Every decision and resource allocation must be in harmony with our overarching goals and objectives. This alignment will enable us to maximize our impact and achieve meaningful outcomes for the community members. You guys can read the rest at a later date, but I'm just going to go through it. There's a little bit of history. I do want to highlight that this strategic plan has evolved since it was originally started, but it is based on the one that we did in early February of 2029 with our old facilitator. Since then, we've had 2 workshops, and then we had a working group that worked on finalizing the letters, the goals and values and the wording of different things. So I just want to highlight our new vision. It's continuously improve the quality of public service through innovation and leadership. Our mission is we provide responsive and accountable services that prioritize public safety, equality, and economic vibrancy. Our values are we have 6 now, and it's collaboration, community, trust, our employees, opportunity, and respect. Our focus areas stayed the same as what they were before, which are still our 5, and they're development and operational excellence, planning for sustainable growth, technology, community engagement, and then healthy and safe communities. So with that, the focus areas and areas have stayed the same, but what is new is our actionable items. I want to spend a little bit of time on operational development excellence because it's the one that was given the most goals, and it's going to need some resources to achieve everything on there, and a lot of the timelines are very tight. So I'm just going to read through them. Sorry. Let me go back. There we go. So it's so this, I'll do the actionable items, and then you guys have the strategies up there, but to conduct due diligence and gather information necessary to create a program of in-house training. The other actionable item is finalize a training program for consideration board approval, followed by implementation. And I know HR is already doing a lot to get this done, and they have workshops, drone lunch, where they're offering training programs. Next one is to create a service award program, form an internal working group to collaborate with our deputy CEO or human resources, present finding recommendations to the board of supervisors, which will include the development of a marketing program, job fairs, attendance, work plan, partner with local agencies, schools, and organizations. I just want to highlight our HR team is already doing this, and they've increased social media presence and are attending a lot of or conducting a lot more community outreach. The next one is to prepare and conduct San Benito County residents a survey for professional skills and interests in working for the county. So I'll just go through them. Create a comprehensive professional development training program for all employees, enhancing leadership, organizational planning, and our organization. So targeted frame is this summer. And then assemble representatives from county administration liaisons to create a workforce development group. And I know that has already also been started. For planning, so I'm going to move on to planning and sustainable growth. The rest aren't as long, I promise. So with this one, there's 4 actionable items. And they include to present to the Board of Supervisors a collaborative plan to construct affordable and workforce housing. And I'll move on to the next one. So specific and associated areas of interest include zoning. So complete a complete a general plan amendment, and this includes zoning amendments necessary in updating the agriculture preservation ordinance. Next is to focus on tourism by promoting marketing and identifying funding, both in 16 and new. And this one, county administration is going to recommend some funding in the budget to help with the marketing plan. So the next one's prioritize and commitment to improving and repairing roads. So develop a road improvement plan for the board, and I believe Sue's already working on this plan, and to include the county's pavement condition index with alternatives and explore creative financing options. So next we move on to technology. So this one also has four, and it's the strategy is achieving a paperless organization. I know the team's already working on policy and trying to achieve this goal. The next is innovation through technology development. Develop a committee department to create a robust multi-year plan to deploy the use of technology to improve effectiveness, overall county operations. And next, enhance employee and public safety at facilities. And Supervisor Cosmic, you kind of mentioned security cameras and other avenues for achieving it, and staff is definitely looking into that. Explore AI for potential use in local government, and that one has 2 actionable items associated with it. For community engagement, improve public communications and messaging, and develop an ongoing communication plan. So I think with our new PIO, we're definitely making strides to increasing our community engagement and get more information out to the public quicker. So I think, our final one is healthy and safe communities. So with this one, and that's our last one, we have 3 strategies. It's park connectivity, achieve operational stability of Hazel Hawkins Hospital, and aggressively address the opioid crisis. So with that, I don't know if Ray, there's anything you want to add, but that is it.
If I may, I'll just add a couple of points. I just want to thank staff. I know that part of the December Robert Bendorf strategic planning sessions that we had came out. A lot of this came out of this, and then also actually having the team that was created after. Thank you to those that participated in that to establish what you have before you. So I really appreciate the work, and I can just tell you that our staff, administrative staff, HR, and there's a lot of work already happening today. We're really working hard to check these boxes off, but really we've noticed a huge shift having staff just focused on that and by the direction of the board. So I want to thank the board for giving us direction on this. I do know having the new PIO, just an item that she presented or had online went viral this last week, about 235,000 hits, went international. So just on recruitment alone for the sheriff's office. So we've got a lot of good responses of we want to come work for San Benito County. So it was good to see that, and just our efforts seem to be paying off. So that's all I have to say.
And one more thing I forgot to add is we are planning on having a few more town halls. We're planning 3 more for the rest of the year, and we plan to introduce our strategic plan in the beginning to the public before we get into any of the topics. So, and we're also working with our PAO for additional community engagement.
I'm sorry, did you say the town halls? Is that what you said?
Yes.
What did you just say right now? Okay, yeah. Thank you for that. I missed the word town halls. Yeah, and we're working on the agendas for that. We have a June date set, June, I think, 4th set.
August 22nd.
August 22nd.
And our last one to be determined.
To be determined. It's going to be at the end of the year. But just, mark your calendars for those 2 dates as of right now. We'll inform you on the last date, but, it's going to be great material. We're going to be presenting the finances, how finances flow. So we'll have subvention funds as well as part of that. I think that's really important as well. I do concur with Supervisor Kuzmicki about how the funds flow, what we can spend the money on, because a lot of folks in the public think we could just spend it on whatever, and unfortunately we can't. As well as just kind of where we're at with the allocation of funding that we do receive is kind of a little lower than the average throughout the state. So we're going to highlight that for the public, and then we're going to dovetail that with roads and our projects. So we really want to have kind of the budgetary kind of items prior to our budget and have the public involved with that and understand kind of where we stand with our finances. So that's the reason why it's going to be before June 17th, which is our budget hearing. So I encourage everyone to attend that as well from the public, as well as department heads and staff. So it should be a great presentation, discuss our CIPs and roads in particular. So hopefully we'll get some good feedback and good attendance from that. And along with other items that we'll have later in the year, I think we're going to have some really great town halls. Thanks.
Okay, great. Let's open it up to public comment.
If you'd like to make a comment in chambers, please provide a speaker card. On Zoom, please press *9 or the raised hand icon. And I have no public comment.
Bringing it back to the board. I'm going to start this side because it's a habit. I keep going this way. So Supervisor Sotelo.
I'm just really excited to see this brought back before us. I think it's amazing. I think adding the action items, and I know we haven't had it officially kind of blessed yet by the Board of Supervisors. However, I will say I have seen just off of what we did, I see staff already working on a lot of these goals, and I think it's really exciting to see. I think it has, there's definitely areas that I think I've already seen a big improvement, and so thank you for everybody kind of being willing to do this. I know that it was 2 long days, but I'm really proud of all of the work that went into it, and I think that it's so much easier kind of having actionable items and goals for all of us to work towards. So I think it's a beautiful document. So Dulce, you did an amazing job on making it beautiful and adding more content. And so I will say on stage 3 page, I don't know what page it is, maybe page 3 it looks like, it lists kind of the process and overview, super small technicality kind of, but Robert is with MRG and it says MGG. Sorry. So, but thank you. I'm very happy to see it, and I look forward to all of us working together on this. So thank you.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
I just want to say thank you. Those 2 days in the training session when we were working on this, I couldn't see what the finished product was, but as Supervisor Sotelo said, I'm so glad that we have something that we can go ahead and look to and refer to, where we have contacts, the leads. I love that even more, because in that way, if something becomes an issue, we know exactly who we need to go to and direct the attention to. And so thank you for this, and for the staff, all the hard work that you put into it. I appreciate it. It looks fabulous, and I'm glad to see that we have something hard, concrete, to show the hard work of all the efforts that have been put into this document. Thank you again.
Supervisor Kosmicki.
Yeah, I won't say too much other than just kind of reiterate the roads, really, for me, going forward, the roads, highway expansion, the Highway 25 expansion seems to get farther and farther away from us as time goes on, and so really that's by far and away, along with obviously in the immediate, the healthcare situation, cleaning up the community, and finding a way to bring more tourists to our community. I'll just continue to reiterate that those are going to be my top priorities as a supervisor going forward. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. Supervisor Zanger, any comments? Nope. Okay, Dulce, my only comments. I noted that it's page 8 of the item, I don't know which one it is on the presentation, but under planning and sustainable growth, that roads item be moved to the top. And then, I don't think that, having a plan by summer of 2024 is excellent, but I think this needs to be something that's an ongoing, because it's going to be a discussion of revenue, and so on some of these items, it's great to have a time frame that's more like a start. It doesn't look so much like a finish. I just want to be realistic. Some of these items are going to take a lot of time, and then in looking at opportunities of how the community and nonprofits can help in some of these areas, I continually feel like we do not embrace our community as much as we could to get support, because there are some things that they could be very supportive on. So those are my only comments on this. I think there's some minor little formatting things that I'll do with you on the side, and we don't have to go through it here. So, is there a motion?
Could
Yep.
the motion include minor technical?
Yes, but
corrections?
it's formatting. There's no word changes. There's a couple formatting things I just want to fix. Is there a motion to approve?
So I move to approve as recommended with minor formatting changes.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So now we're going to move on to we're going to consolidate these 3 items. So 2.4, Steve, come on up. You're highlighted here. 2.4, 2.5, and 2.6 all have a lot to do with each other on Lime Kiln, and we're going to have Steve do the presentation on all 3, and then open it up to public comment, and then bring it back to the board for full discussion. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I just ask, I know that they're separate items, 2.4, 2.5, and 2.6, and we are going to deal with them in one item, but just for irregularity purposes, is this something normally that we would do, where we would have different items on the agenda, but yet consolidate them for one public comment?
It's not normal, but it's permissible, and in this case, since these are related actions, then the public can talk about them all at one time.
Okay. I don't have any objections. I just want to make sure that
Yep.
it's not an issue. And
Yeah, and the whole point behind this was to be able to allow the public to hear all of them and not have to get ideas in one that they can't come back and do a public comment. So the thought process was making sure that they could comment on all 3 together.
so the idea was to enhance the public's input, not as an obstruction to it.
Exactly.
Good. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
That was
Thank
the
you.
point of it.
And by public, we're referring to Valerie Egman.
Well,
Hi,
whomever might
Valerie,
be
and whoever's on
interested.
Zoom.
It was a joke.
I love the joke. We got to have some humor with this. And we did pull this from consent because we wanted this to be discussed, because it's a lot. So Steve, take it away.
All right, thanks, Madam Chair, Board of Supervisors, and members of the public. Steve Loop, Public Works Administrator. So yes, we're going to be discussing the Lime Kiln Road Bridge Replacement Project. Items 2.4, 2.5, and 2.6. So, for folks that aren't familiar with the location of the bridge, if you're traveling down Cienega Road, maybe 5 to 10 minutes past the wineries, our excellent county wineries, you'll come up to Lime Kiln Road, and you basically take a right-hand turn and just travel maybe half a mile, and you'll see an old wooden bridge on Lime Kiln Road. The upper part of this image, you can kind of see a piece of Cienega Road, and that dashed line is the project footprint. We're going to be disturbing about a little over an acre for the project for construction activities. And during construction, traffic will be detoured on the west side, upstream side of Pescadero Creek. Essentially, we're going to be building the northbound lane first, and then once that's done, we'll switch traffic over to that and construct the southbound leg of the project. So, this is actually one of 10 projects, 10 bridge projects that the county's working on, just kind of an FYI. And so I'm going to walk you through a little bit of project history and some of the components of this specific project. So, project started back in 2012, and talking to some Caltrans bridge folks, their average bridge project takes 8 to 10 years. We're on the 12-year plan for this bridge, and I'll talk about that in a second. But one of the components, just for folks that aren't familiar with bridge projects, they're a little bit different than most road projects. Most of our road projects are within the right-of-way, existing right-of-way footprint. The majority don't affect creeks, and essentially you're just improving a road in its existing condition for most of our county road projects. Bridges are a little bit different. You know, by definition, we're almost always affecting creeks, and so there's a couple options with going through CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act. If you have a real big project and you determine early on that you're going to have significant impacts to the environment, you'll typically do an EIR, Environmental Impact Report. Smaller projects where you're not going to have a significant impact, or you don't anticipate having a significant impact, you do smaller type of projects. And this one actually we performed in ISMND, which is an initial study and mitigated negative declaration, which is basically just a smaller CEQA report than an EIR is. And so these are the categories we actually analyzed for this project. We had to go through all 18 categories. I'm not going to go through them now, but you can ask questions later if you have any specific questions on the different categories. So the way bridge projects work is you spend roughly the first year doing kind of preliminary design, or doing a hydraulic analysis of how the creek's affecting the bridge structure, and then once you get past that, you'll start doing more detailed environmental analysis and more detailed design. And then finally, after that, you'll go to, once you go through CEQA, have CEQA approval, then you start your right-of-way acquisition. For this project, it was just a couple of temporary construction easements for the detours and the construction, just temporary easements. And then you also start your environmental permits. And so that's actually the item 2.5 that we'll talk about in a second, which is one of the permits that we had to acquire. So the 2012 12-year process, it's worth noting, I guess, a little bit before my time, but during this project and some couple of our other bridge projects, we actually had some staff turnover. And I was told that at one point, the staff person that was working on this project actually paused their work on the project because he was overwhelmed with too many projects. And so there were some hiccups along the way. A couple things that also took a little bit of time, right-of-way acquisition, like I said, occurs after you get CEQA clearance, and then environmental permits. Typically at the end of the day, we're usually waiting for the environmental permitting agencies to issue a permit, such as the incidental take permit for California tiger salamander that we'll talk about in a moment. So once you get through that whole process, which is where we are today, you advertise the project for contractor bids if the board decides to do that in a few moments. Estimated cost of this bridge is $2.5 million, and the construction time period is about 7 months. So if we start this summer, it should be completed in the springtime. Now, to talk specifically about items 2.4, 2.5, and 2.6, our design team is Consor, and they have been working on the project pretty much for the duration. We're down to now some extra project management, helping us permit implementation, staking the actual construction of the bridge, and then construction support during bidding and construction support during construction. And so that's the $73,000 that we are requesting for those services. And then I guess I just continue based on, okay. All right, so during the course of the environmental analysis, it was identified that there could be tiger salamanders in the general vicinity We don't know of any actually living right near this bridge at this moment. So what that triggers is called an incidental take permit, meaning we might incidentally impact one of those species. And so what the permitting agencies require of us is, because we might accidentally hurt them and we are affecting their environment to the tune of about 2.8 acres where they could live at some point, the county actually has to purchase 2.8 acres off-site through the South Bay Conservation Resource. They actually have an off-site location where tiger salamanders live, and so we expand the living area for those species that are actually there, and so now they have another 2.8 acres of habitat because we're impacting the habitat around this bridge area upstream and downstream. And so the average cost these days is about $50,000 per acre to buy the 2.8 acres of extra habitat in that location, and so that equals $140,000 of habitat we're purchasing. And then finally, as I mentioned, we're done with the plans and specifications, so staff is recommending that the chair sign the invitation for bids, and we put the project out to bids to the contractors, and then contractors, if they're in good standing with the state, the lowest qualified bidder is awarded the project, and we can rock and roll and hopefully be completed by this springtime. So I shall pause there for questions.
Okay, first let's open it up to public comment for all 3 items.
If you'd like to make a comment on items 2.4, 5, and 6, please provide a speaker card. And on Zoom, please press *9 or the raised hand icon. And I have Valerie Egan.
Thought I'd be waiting a while. Yes, I was concerned with the takings, the incidental takings, just to get some clarity because of the further information on parks eventually, and what we're dealing with the regional park. So I'm interested in the tiger salamander mitigation credits for $140,000 an acre, and is there no space within San Benito County that we can't establish as a sanctuary area, find a rancher, sign similar habitat, so that we can keep money in county? So that was just because I don't really understand that whole process very well, and it'd be nice to hear more. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, we're going to bring it back to the board. Any questions? Comments? Supervisor Sotelo?
Thank you. So I'll start with 2.4. So Steve, I see that the original contract for Consor was for 356,000-ish. I'm rounding to the closest. And now we're at 744. And it looks like it looks like there, we're now on the 6th amendment. What were like the previous amendments for, or are we just getting kind of charged every year that we're not doing something, we're being charged for that? I mean, we've doubled the price.
We did, and I obviously wasn't here for all the history, but my understanding is the project did change a bit over the years. We had to restart, stop, restart. And one of the key components to that was CEQA actually changed during the 12 years. And so there were some studies that were done initially that my understanding is we had to maybe called revalidate, but essentially redo some environmental studies because CEQA actually changed because of the duration of the project. And environmental studies are not inexpensive, unfortunately. So I think that was one of the major reasons. So, yeah, I hope that answers. Do you want to?
Shirley?
Shirley Murphy, Deputy County Counsel. Just to add to what Steve said, also I believe the Caltrans standard specs had changed, so there were some needs to update some of the design work. But specifically to your question about the cost increases, the Second and Fourth Amendment did not involve any additional money. It was just time extensions. So there were additional funds on the First Amendment of $30,200. The Third Amendment had $148,214. The Fifth Amendment had $136,650, and this current proposed amendment is $73,500. A lot of it, as Steve mentioned, had to do having to do additional work, and apparently there were significant comments and revisions required by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife way beyond what had been originally anticipated. So there was substantial, in addition to having to do additional studies, there was substantial work that had to be done, additional work to be done to address their comments and revisions that they requested.
Okay, thank you. Do we have to two follow-up questions to that then. One is, you mentioned kind of the Caltrans specs. Do we have to follow Caltrans specs all the time, just with bridges? When do we have to follow Caltrans specs, and when is it up to us as a county to decide kind of what is acceptable specs?
So, great question, and it's a really good point, because even I was texted by one of our engineers that the Caltrans specs changed a few times even during the process. So we started with one set of specs and we had to update them. The other thing that changes, and I don't know if it's for this bridge, I do know for other bridges, but believe it or not, the seismic requirements change for bridges, and then you have to update the design. I know at least one of our bridges, we were updating the bridge design quite a bit because the seismic standards changed from the state. So that partially answers your question. We obviously have to comply with the seismic standards of the state, which directly affects the specs. So the way it works with our county specs, if we're just installing a county standard road and like maybe a neighborhood type road or CSA type road, smaller roads, we default to City of Hollister specifications right now. For larger projects, we default to Caltrans specs, mainly because they have an entire team that focuses on making specs or producing specifications that are, I don't call them, they're very well written, I'll say, and they cover a lot of different contingencies, and Caltrans has a lot of legal challenges during the year for their projects, and so they constantly update their specs to make them better legally, I'll say. So we typically default to them, and so sometimes we'll use one slightly older version and not the current ones, but typically we try to use the current spec.
Also, with regard to these types of projects that are funded by Caltrans, we have to follow their specifications because they're providing the funding for it.
So regarding the funding, so I think this was part of what was at the federal highway, or I don't know, one of those. So it originally starts at the 356. Do they fund it all the way to completion? So now they're going to fund it at the 744, or are we having to pick up any part of that?
So the way it works is, as Shirley mentioned, they are paying for 88% of the overall project, including the design team. But what we have to do, we actually have to justify it as we go along each step of the way, and we have a consultant that fills out a lot of paperwork, and so we've already submitted that to say these are why we had to perform these changes, here's the extra budget. I don't know if we got a reply on this latest 73,000 or not, 'cause it's pretty recent, but all the other ones were essentially approved by Caltrans. It's like, yes, we understand why you had to change the project, we'll still pay for 88%, you still pay for 12%. So they've been with us along the way, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. In regarding, let's see, so now I'm gonna move to 2.5. So you had mentioned that there was as of right now, it didn't sound like there had been any spottings of tiger salamanders. So if you get through, is it just because of the location that it doesn't matter even if there isn't a single one? Fish and Wildlife has determined and decided that there's a possibility, and so now we have to purchase these mitigation credits. Or is there any room for us to say, no, there's no room for us to say, we want to wait and see?
So the way it works, once they determine that there's habitat, and there's different radiuses, and I forget what the radiuses are. Usually they're a 1 mile radius and a 5 mile radius, and this goes back to the question from the public. Like for the regional park, we don't have any known sightings within a regional park, but because we're within these radiuses of habitats, and similar with Union Bridge, we still have to work through Fish and Wildlife. We very specifically note, we haven't found any at this location, They say, okay, but one could wander into the area. You could have the incidental take, and so in addition to that, because we're taking their habitat, because they could travel to this area, that's why we have to purchase the 2.8 acres off-site, so that they have that habitat off-site, and it's just the process.
Does the state, is Fish and Wildlife, or is there any, where do we get the funding do we get any funding help to pay for these mitigation credits?
Sometimes. We apply, and we apply through Caltrans, the Highway Bridge Program, and yes, sometimes they do give us reimbursement for the mitigation.
Are we receiving it on this one?
I don't know. I guess with the recent ones, I don't know if it's the 140.
Is there any opportunity for us, working with our local land trusts and things of that sort, to work with them for the mitigation credits, or is that a completely different process? Do they have to go through some type of, I don't know, state permitting process or something? And if that's the case, it'd be great to start working with the San Benito Ag Land Trust to get them certified, so that we can kind of at least be supporting and keeping our dollars in our county.
Yes, so in this general area, Sparling Ranch is the only certified mitigation bank where we can purchase credits. So other folks are more than welcome to go through that state process and get certified and have habitat available, and that would give us some options. But right now, the Sparling Ranch folks are the only area or mitigation bank in the area, so we typically purchase the credits through.
And is Sparling Ranch, is that the one for this South Bay Conservation Resources?
Yeah, that's the name of the company, the LLC, that manages, quotes, the Sparling Ranch service area for it.
So even though it's South Bay Conservation Resources, am I understanding that the ranch, Sparling Ranch, then is in San Benito County? Or it's in both counties?
Well, I'll have to look at the map again, but it's nearby. I think it's in our county, but it might go outside of our county, actually. So,
Okay.
But it's the closest mitigation bank near this near us, basically.
Okay, so if people wanted to have their property available for something like this, they need to go through the process, and then we could work with them. But right now, this is the closest that is available to us.
Yeah, I think it's actually one of the only ones in the general area. Yes, to answer your question.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
That's all my questions.
Any questions? Nope. Supervisor Zanger, any questions? Okay, my only question is, thank you, Supervisor Sotelo, because I had several questions on this, is, this is just, if we were to do bridge projects again, to keep costs down, would you be making recommendations about how we move forward on these type of projects to keep the cost down? And just to clarify, out of all three of these items, the current fiscal year cost is 1.3 plus million, but that's for all of this project, not each part of the project. Just clarifying so that it doesn't look like they're all separate items.
Yeah, for sure. So where the 1.3 million came from is actually what we projected to spend this year for the overall total project, so that if we started it this summer or even this month, we'd spend maybe half if we started the construction cost, say $1 million-ish, and then it goes into next fiscal year, which is going to be another $1 million. So yeah, that's the overall project cost is the 1.3 million. That's
Okay,
correct.
I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. And is there, I mean, this is where working with like the Resource Conservation District, and I know they're getting up and running, and we had a great presentation last meeting from them. But is that someone that we could maybe start partnering with so that we are not having to buy land and that we can be more proactive with the community on where we could relocate these cute little critters?
So it's a process, and if that agency or some other agency wants to go through the process to become certified with the state, but here's the kicker is, the habitat has to work for the special critters, so that I can't use my backyard and start a California salamander mitigation area, right? And so everybody's welcome to do it. What we're essentially was we're purchasing habitat for the folks, the critters that are there at Sparling Ranch, which goes, like I said, San Benito and Santa Clara County, so that they have area to live and thrive and things. And so somewhat specialized areas, but I think as long as you have those areas and you go through the process, then we could
So we're buying land for little critters that we can't find to be able to build a bridge that we most likely will not ever find those little critters, but we had to buy the land. I just have a really hard time with this entire process because I understand environmentally this is very important, but there's got to be another way of doing this without wasting taxpayer dollars, in my opinion. Sorry.
noted.
I just making my comment. Okay, any further questions, comments? Supervisor Husnicki?
Can we use pet stores? Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, it just seems like, especially for the smallness of this bridge, a lot of money for something that we probably won't find in little guys. Okay, with that, is there a motion to approve or any other comments from anybody?
Madam Chair, even though we discussed them collectively, you have to vote on them separately.
We do have to vote on them separately. Okay, so let's start with, thank you for that clarification. Let's start with 2.4, and can I get a motion on 2.4?
I move to approve as recommended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 2.5.
Move to approve. As
Second.
recommended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, 5-0. Okay, 2.6.
Move to approve as recommended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, Steve, I really appreciate you doing this because I felt like it was gonna get pulled because it was very confusing, all of it together in separate ones. So I think I just appreciate your time and I appreciate the board's patience because I felt like this was enough. It needed to be a little more public.
You
So,
bet. It's nice to
thank
talk
you.
about bridges instead of roads, so glad I could help out a little bit. So
Yeah, and with that, we cleaned up already our consent, but we didn't have anything on future agenda items that we were discussing, or did we?
I was just, per our last meeting, I was gonna highlight, I was gonna kind of quickly
How about we do
review
that
it.
real quick, and then we'll go into closed session, and we'll just come back and end it.
That sounds great if it's okay with the board. I'm good
Yep.
with that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move to item number 4.1.
Item number 4.1. We don't do do we do public comment on this one because it's normal?
I would.
Okay,
I would
open
do
it up to public comment, please. Thank you.
If you'd like to make a comment in chambers, please provide a speaker card. And on Zoom, *9 or the raised hand icon. And I have no public comment.
Okay, great. Go ahead, CAO Espinoza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so as you see in the attachment, there's 15 items for task. We actually have added the develop policy for the park sponsorship, so there's been some work with that as the last item on the agenda, or on the item. They'll be meeting with the ad hoc. There's some work that's going on, and we'll address this. We'll bring it back to the board, and as well as the Parks and Rec Committee. Item number 1 with regards to the encampments, I'll defer this to legal counsel on this one.
Well, the Supreme Court is, the Grants Pass case has been argued, and what we're doing is waiting for that decision because it'll be a roadmap on exactly what we can do, and not fall into a liability trap. So it should be a short time. I know you've been waiting for it, but now that it's been argued, I think the decision will come out shortly.
It's really item number, the first two items there. The purchasing policy, I don't know, Barbara Thompson in County Counsel's office has been working on this, and we'll continue to bring this back. We'll bring this back to your board when they wrap that up. I know staff's been doing some work behind the scenes with that, and we'll bring that back to you when that's completed. The next item with regards to the roosters, raising roosters for fighting, planning department. I've talked to Abraham about that. They're spearheading this, and this came from Supervisor Dom Zinger. They will bring this back to your board for discussion. So, and that is with regards to ordinance 2.624. That's the one that they would be providing an update to your board on. Let's see here, the next one. I should be pulling this up on the computer. My eyes aren't working so well.
Trace Pinos, it's the speed traps.
Oh yes, Steve's. Yeah, sorry. Thank you for that.
That's okay.
I need to open it up. Steve has actually been working on this. I know that he has actually a study that he's actually been working on. So as soon as we get the results back from the studies that they're working on, he'll be coming back to the board with regards to that. And let me just open it. Give me a second. Bear with me.
You have one more, just the task force on broadband.
Okay, yeah, and so I have we have a new IT manager that will be spearheading the broadband element. I do know that there is a discussion about kind of developing a working group committee, so we're going to definitely discuss that further. I know that we've been working with MBAP and some of the regional partnerships with CCBC and other folks, as well as our internal county-wide agencies, City of Hollister, City of San Juan, and other folks. Some of our local ISPs as well have been involved with this. I do know that there's an initiative with the state to kind of pull back the reins on some of the funding, so we're looking at that closely, but we're still moving that forward. I do know that there's work on the hut. I personally went out to Aromas, to the fire department, and talked to their staff, talked to the chief there about potentially having it at that site. They're open to it. Their board as well was willing to look at that closely, but in line with that, there is discussions with the folks that are actually the engineering of this, and they're looking at using the water district in Aromas instead of the fire department. So it's kind of changing gears. So that's just an update that I can provide for you on that. But we will do more work and provide more detail once we get a better handle of what's happening with that. So the physical actual work, there's a lot of work being done on the engineering side of that and what's going to actually happen.
And my apologies, there are 4 other items. My finger has a Band-Aid, so I was not able to move my screen up. So I see that we do have 4 other items.
Yeah, and no worries. And so the paperless item, we are working on a policy, and we will be working with Integrated Waste on taking that on because they are doing an initiative for going green. So there is a lot of work. We actually have met, just as an FYI, we've met with staff, IT staff, and other folks to look at feasibility and the best way to draft a policy based on what we have available at
Can I just add on that one? When we had our last session about generations in the workforce, I realized that I'm old school and I can't get out of not having a hard copy of the agenda. So we just have to be mindful of the various generations in the workforce, that those that can do online and some of us that haven't quite figured that out. But I know that we do need to go green. But we also have to be able to meet the needs of all of the ages in the workforce. currently.
Thank you for your comments. I see that we have the Pinnacles branding.
Yes, and I do know that with regards to that, I do know I mean, I have in my notes here, we reached out to consulting for that and potentially allocating some funds in the budget. So we'll discuss that a little further on the 14th to put in a plan for that. And then the low impact camping, high camp, I think it is.
Hip camp.
Hip camp. I do know that we've been meeting with them. I believe the EAC as well as our internal staff have been meeting with them on actually developing, them in our county a little bit, being a little bit more visible in our county. So I do know that there's some work. As soon as we get that done, we'll be bringing that back to your board with a item. So I think
There's one more, and it's pretty old. It's develop a policy on park sponsorship. This was Supervisor Kosmicki and Supervisor Hernandez. Oh, did you do that one first? I apologize. Sorry. Just wanted to make sure we got them all.
yeah, and we'll make sure we bring that back to your board. We'll definitely get that dialed in and bring that back. But I do know that we're staff's been working on it behind the scenes. They want to take it to the planning or to the Parks and Rec Commission, do a little bit more work, and then we'll bring it back to your board. If there's any other direction, feel free to provide some input or thoughts with that.
Do you want to add, Supervisor Kosmicki, anything or amend anything to that for future discussion?
No, I was actually going to mention. I'm excited about it. I just think it's low hanging fruit, especially with the regional park coming. But the Pinnacles part, I was just going to add, if we could at least at some point, I don't know when in the process, reach out to Caltrans, because presumably signs along Highway 101 would be a component of that is a hurdle. And then I was going to ask the county council. You mentioned a relatively short time frame for the homeless issue. What is? Can you like a range of sorts? I guess the Supreme Court.
Well, usually following an argument, it's 30 to 60 days later you can get a decision. So I'm hoping that's the case here, but they go till October. I'm sure they're not going to take that long to do it.
And could they potentially just punt altogether, and then we're back to basically just bringing?
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Thank you for that update. Okay, we're gonna go now into closed session, and we have nothing on the agenda when we return, so we'll just be adjourning at that point. So do I need any comments on closed session? Oh, public comment. Sorry, public comment on closed session.
If you'd like to make a comment on Zoom, please press *9 or the raised hand icon. And I have no public comment.
Okay, great. Then we are moved to closed session. Yeah, we're done. You're good. We're just gonna